How are we all doing? See, I looked at the schedule and I saw that I was at 3 o'clock and I was like, oh, are you kidding me? Because you're all carving up on popcorn. And so if you fall asleep, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to come down. I'm just going to slap you around a bit, or maybe, just put some water on your face. Is that okay? Excellent. All right. So top 10 questions executives need to ask in Agile transformation. This is probably the wrong title, because what it actually should say is top 10 questions an enlightened executive should ask in an Agile transformation. Before I go here, because I was considering that it was going to be 3 o'clock and you might all be tired, this is the part where I say, let's all get up and get moving. And you're all like, no, I don't want to do that. But tough, because that's what we're going to do. But here's what's going to happen. Has anyone here had any exposure to the Agile Coaching Institute with Lisa Atkins? Oh, I highly encourage you to do that. If you I saw yes in your presentation this morning, you had the competency model. Because one of the things that Lisa does is she does what's called a constellation. And what it's used for, and there's a number of ways you can apply it, because the application of these things is always important. But what she does is, have you ever been in a situation in work where you're asking to get a feel or a vibe or some sort of reaction from a statement that you make, and no one's doing anything, or nobody's willing to put themselves out there, right? Because they don't want to be exposed, they don't want a big giant spotlight on them. And so there's this method which is called constellation. You can look it up and Google it. They actually use it in lots of different ways, but Lisa uses it for Agile transformations. And what it's called, it's a physical representation of revealing the truth. So that may not mean a lot to you right now, but we're going to try it. So here's what I want to imagine. That the center of this room is what's most true for us, right? I'm going to ask you a statement. And if that statement that I say is most true to you, I would like you to stand up, and I would like you to go as close to the circle or the center if it's true for you. If it's not true for you, then obviously this is the nucleus, and then you'll go farther away. If it's least true for you, then I want you to go as far away from it as possible. Now, think of this if you were, the last time I used it, I was with a bunch of executives in a room. We were talking about what transformation is. We'll get to that in a second. But I wasn't getting what I needed from them. I wasn't getting the gut of what we were trying to get to. And so I used the constellation in the room. There's only 7 or 8 people, but it was very revealing. And it made them feel less exposed by me doing this. So let's try it. So stand up. I want you to go as far away from the center as possible. I'm making you walk. And where did I put my questions? Don't tell me I lost my statement already. All right, we'll start off with, oh, where is my statement gone? Okay, she's looking. This is live, folks. This is live television. Okay, I don't know where it is. Okay, we'll start with an easy one. All right. You are my hero. Thank you so much. Lots of love coming your way from me. Okay, thank you. All right. I wish I could sit in my chair and not have to move right now. That's a statement. If this is true for you, please follow into the center. I wish I could sit down right now in my chair and not have to do this exercise. Okay, here's what's happening. That's okay. Thank you for being so transparent. When you're doing a constellation like this, here's what I want to see happen. Notice what's going on in the room. That's all you have to do. There's no one judging. We're simply looking to see what's happening within the constellation and what's been revealed. Let's try another one. Go back. Thank you for sharing. I have been a part of a high-performance team. If this is a true statement for you, please move into the center or wherever you think is appropriate. I have been a part of a high-performance team. Now stay in that position for a moment and take a look around. See what the constellation is revealing for you. Okay, stay where you are. My company is clear on what we are looking to transform. And they all go back to the back. My company is clear on what we are looking to transform. Interesting, right? Okay, we'll do one more. Do I have one more? No, I'm going to leave the other ones, I think. Hold on, let's see. Yep, no, okay, you can sit down now. You're going to implement it? Good. Highly recommend looking it up. It's a really great exercise. All right. Okay. I decided I would put the About Me slide in here. I don't really like About Me slides. When I see speakers put them in, I'm like, oh God, really? Do you have to sell yourself? But then I thought if you came out of here and you thought I was crappy speaker, you might think she's a really ineffective speaker and she knows nothing about what she's talking about. This way, at least you'll know maybe that I know what I'm talking about, even if I am crappy. So at least there'll be one. So I've been an Agilist for about 10 years. I like to say that I was doing Agile for 2, and I was being Agile for 8. And there's been a lot of doing and being over the last number of hours, right? I've been in the enterprise transformation consulting space for about 22 years. I kind of fell into it, and I think that's probably the same for maybe most of us, right? You're working in a team, maybe you're a technical lead or, whatever your position is, and then your company decides to do like process adoption or some transformation type thing, and then they ask you to be on the core team or value stream or whatever you call it. And then you go there and you spend all your time, and now you're a transformation expert, right? And then over the years you evolve, right? Well, this has been my journey. What's interesting about it is in the 22 years I've been doing transformation, I thought I was coaching. I thought it was like by default, if I was a transformation person, I was a coach as well. But then I recognized that I actually didn't know what coaching was. And I used to have people say to me, well, I know how to coach. I'm a coach. I have people that report to me. I tell people what to do. I'm a problem solver. Of course I'm a coach, right? But then you realize that that's not what coaching is. And so it took me a little while. There was a bit of a delta there, right? 12 years, I think, between me being a consultant and me actually recognizing what it truly means to be a coach. And when I took the leap from transformation to truly being a coach, in addition, like that kind of holistic view of it, completely changed the game for me. So, word to the wise, if you have not taken any professional coaching in your life and you are here because you want to transform an organization or at least support it, go get some coaching skills for yourself because they will really help you. I'm also a practitioner of spiral dynamics and integral theory. Oh, love that stuff. Anybody here know about spiral dynamics? Awesome. Google it, people. It will change your life because it's all about where the level of consciousness is in your executive teams and your cultures in your organizations. Anybody hear of Reinventing Organizations by Frederick Laue? Yeah, great book came out about 18 months ago. He talks about spiral dynamics and integral from an agile perspective. So just, write it down. Go on YouTube. It is definitely a game changer. I don't think you can be in transformation unless you are a human dynamics and organizational junkie. I have a couple of things to say about that, but I will say one thing. If you're in the business of transforming organizations or transforming teams to be high-performing teams, then I'm going to say something you might think is a little fluffy. You cannot support the transformation in other things unless you're transforming yourself. You need to understand what that vulnerability, compassion, and empathy is like. And so you can't be the servant leader of transformation without knowing what it feels like to go through that journey yourself, whether that's a personal transformation or whatever. Speaking of the Agile Coaching Institute, I became an executive partner of the ACI this past year. What does that mean? It means that I get to hang out with Lisa and the two Michaels, and we talk a lot about how do you apply a lot of the ideologies that we are practitioners of, like Spiral and Integral and other philosophies, into the application of implementing large-scale enterprise adoptions. Because it's all well and good to read a book, but if you can't apply it, what difference does it make, right? Okay, the rest of it, it's all good stuff. Our work in CA Technologies, I think Stacey said. So here's the thing. Let's see if you were listening. How long am I an Agilist? 10. Oh. Yes. There. You're an overachiever, aren't you? Oops. Oh. I'm lost, people. Whilst they're trying to fix this, do you need my little gizmo? Whilst they're trying to fix this, let's get some introspection going. How many folks here are actually in an organizational transformation of some sort? Okay. For those of you that did not put your hands up, would you be willing to share maybe why you're here and what value you're looking to get from this session? Anybody want to share? Thank you, Kate. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be an agile transformation, right? Is there something that's being transformed in the organization that people would suggest that it is a transformation of some sort?
Yeah, I think my perspective,
You've been doing agile for a couple of years, yeah. Uh-huh. Yep. You had their support and okay. Yep. Yep. Yeah. So the momentum was there at the beginning, but now you got to keep it going. Okay. That can happen sometimes, and I've actually seen that a number of times where you've got people that are all gung ho about the transformation, and they're the only coaches in the locker room. And then when they walk away, or they can't sustain it, right? You got to have a number of people doing that. Let me go. Oh, wow, look at all those people working on my deck. Okay, well, you know what? It doesn't matter, because I can just talk about transformation all day, really. Or pontificate, really, whichever. All right. So I was going to talk about the top 10 questions. And the reason I picked 10 was because if they really suck, at least you'll know, I'll count down and there'll be 3 left or whatever, so you don't have to worry about it too much. Yeah. Password? Okay. Good Lord. Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to let that go, but I respect the valuable time that these people have put in, so let's give them something to think about. So here's one of the things that I noticed in the last couple of years when CA Technologies started doing their transformation. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you guys. When leaders are creating a vision, we expect them to be very clear about that vision, right? Here's the thing, though. Bob, actually, in the audience, who is a guru in communication, would probably know and have seen that it's not always a top attribute of a leader to communicate effectively. And so, interestingly enough, as well, let's see if I can multitask. So, not only are they sometimes challenged, okay. Not only are they challenged with communicating their vision, but I've noticed something, maybe it's a phenomenon. When we start moving to Agile, everybody gets all up in arms about this whole command and control thing. I have to say I struggle with it. I'm not saying that I'm in support of command and control, I'm not, but here's the thing. We hired people to command the situation and control the risks. And so when we say stop being command and control, many people don't understand what that means. And so one of the things that I invite you to do is when we say we have to stop being command and control, I want you to go a step further and explain what you mean by that. Break it down for people so that they understand. Because command and control is highly subjective. And even though we can be in our organizations saying we shouldn't be command and control, and all our leaders are saying we're not going to be command and control now, that's not the organization we want to be, guess what? They're still command and control, right? So we really have to bring them along. The second part of that is, because now they're all sensitive to command and control, and they don't want to be prescriptive. That's the other nice word in Agile, right? We can't be prescriptive. It's coming off as command and control. Well, see, if they stop being prescriptive, then they're afraid when they start to communicate their vision that it will appear as if they're being prescriptive. Here's what I want. This is the way I want to do it. And you guys need to execute, right? But now what I'm seeing in the behavior of executives is, because they're afraid that the culture is going to think they're too command and control and too prescriptive, they get very ambiguous about their vision because they're afraid it's going to come off in the wrong way. So here's what I tell them. Be very clear about what you want. Be very clear about what it needs to look like when you get there. The in-between stuff, let the teams figure that out. That's for them to figure out. But be super clear on what it is that you want in terms of a vision. Thank you, guys. Most of what we do in transformation is highly subjective. And so you have to be super clear as transformation folks or coaches or whatever role you're playing. And I would hope there is some role that you play in transformation, because we all have to be part of it. But you have to break it down and make sure that everybody in the organization understands what that thing is. Transform is a perfect example of that. I hear transformation all the time. I'm going to tell you, and my title has transformation in it. It is the dirtiest word out there. And here's the thing. When you talk about transformation and you say, so, what are you trying to transform? Like, transform? What are you talking about? We're doing a transformation, but transform? I'm not sure I understand what you mean by that. Oh my God. What does transform actually mean? Make a thorough or dramatic change in the form, appearance, or character of something. Dramatic change. Guess what? Process change is not transformation. I hear that all the time. Thank you for laughing, because it's true, right? Right? We know transformation. We've been doing it for years. No, you implemented SAP. Now, there's a huge transformation part to that. I get it. But that's not the transformation they're thinking about. What they're thinking about is process, right? And so we need to make sure that we understand what we mean when we say it. Who's heard transformation as being fluffy? That's my favorite word. People come into when I walk into a room, they're like, oh God, she's going to talk about fluffy stuff now. And she's going to bring mythical unicorns into it. Now, here's the thing about the mythical unicorns. Why do people think that they're fluffy bunny rabbits and mythical unicorns? Well, because it's very intangible. You can't touch transformation, right? Process, I'm all over. Check boxes, bring it to the next level. Lots of structural things happen with process. That's a very tangible thing. People love that, and they gravitate towards it, certainly in the software industry. But when it comes to transformation, all of these terms come into play. Why is it squishy? Well, sometimes people say it's squishy because it's undefined. Like, how do you define transformation? It's so bloody scary. Is this the Hitchcock birds thing? Is that where that comes from? I was trying to remember where I got that from. Why do people think transformation is scary and they refer to it, which is a survival mechanism in executives, by the way, and actually all of us, to call it fluffy and to call it mythical unicorns? We do it because as soon as we start thinking about what it actually means, which is the people part, we don't want to be anywhere near it. It's so much easier to go here. Now, here's the thing with that. Let me go back here for a second. Remember I said I was a human dynamics junkie. We know that transformation has an uncertainty to it. That's okay. We have to acknowledge that. We have to honor that. But human beings don't like uncertainty. We know that about ourselves. That's scientifically proven, right? But we have to get that out on the table about the fact that there's uncertainty there and that we're scared of it, and that's okay, because it's only when we start to address it and define what that scariness is, can we actually start to think about how to address it, right? So I'm not taken so literally. I'm going to tell you that in transformation, certainly when it comes to Agile, the mechanics, the doing part, certainly really critical to the success of Agile. The people part, the being part, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second, highly critical to the success of the transformation. But if you're a transformation person that's real people-oriented, sometimes you can lose your own perspective as a transformation lead. And what happens is you're just bringing some of the eggs from the basket. You need to have a very 360 holistic view of what transformation looks like, and that means finding the balance between talking about the process part and the people part. That, by the way, is what Integral is all about. Integral talks about the different perspectives, my view, my community's view, the enterprise's perspective, the system perspective. All of these different perspectives are important when you're doing transformation. If you've ever done Myers-Briggs or any of those where it says, oh, you're an ITJF or whatever you are, in Integral, we would have kind of a similar thing. We all have natural gravitations to something, right? Some people, do you ever go into a room and you're talking to somebody and you're telling them about your day and they're like, yeah, but guess what about my day? Because it's all about me, right? And it's all I. And so I'm less of an I, I'm more about, I don't want to talk about myself. I'd rather talk about all of us, right? So we have natural gravitations to certain perspectives. It's all about finding the balance. I would invite you to recognize your own gravitation towards certain perspectives. One of the things that my mentor, Michael Spade from ACI, he says that the environment will reveal itself if you pay attention and take notice. And so in transformation work, if you're working with executives or middle management or whomever, take notice of what's going on around you. It's kind of like that constellation we did. Like what's going on in the system, the environment that may be telling you something without you having to knock down doors and probe and so on and so forth. I'm not going to belabor being and doing. I think there was a lot of being and doing today, but I will belabor the point of that being also subjective. What does being even mean? Because what it means to me might be totally different to what it means to Simon, my friend over here. Or what it means for Fanny Armstrong. So in transformational terms, if you're working with your executives and you are looking as a transformation person to create a coalition, what's a coalition about? The coalition is let's all get on the same agenda here. Let's all make sure that we're singing from the same songbook and that the vision that we're articulating is consistent across the board, and Johnny SVP is not saying something different to Mikey SVP from somewhere else, right? But make sure you're defining, when we say doing, here's what we mean. When we say being, here's what we mean. Typically, the being in Agile is what? If I was to give a piece of paper to an executive and say, I need you to be Agile, what would I give that person to start off? A3? Oh, yeah, yes, you could do that. I was going to say, actually, I was going to be even more simple and say the principles of Agile, right? When did you look at the Agile principles last? 2 days ago? I'm so proud. That's awesome. Always refer back to the principles. It'll help you from losing the plot. Do you know how many transformational coalitions or teams I've gone into in lots of different companies, and the first thing I say to them is, so when's the last time you looked at the principles? Oh my God, shockingly, they say, I've never even seen them. Or it's been years since I looked at them. I had a leader, I kid you not, said a couple of weeks ago, I watched him stand on a podium and he said, so we need to be doing Agile here. And in addition to doing Agile, we need to be focused on our customer. Here's what's funny about that. The very first principle of Agile is, think about your customer. So that kind of tells me that that executive either hasn't looked at the principles or lost the plot somewhere along the line. How's the energy in this room? It's cold. Get your act together, Sinead, and just keep going. Yeah, okay, thank you, Simon. Okay. Okay. We already talked about what are you looking to transform. Now, let me just tell you that these top 10 are not an exhaustive list. Somebody said to me, I was doing this at the Rally On conference actually a number of months ago, and I said, what are you looking to transform? And the guy put his hand up and he said, you don't have a question in there that says, why are you looking to transform? It's a very powerful question, right? These are all powerful questions. You know the term powerful question coaching, right? So it's, you're looking for an introspective view. You're looking to explore, right? So tell me, Mr. Executive, what are you looking to transform in your organization? Help me understand what that looks like to you. Yes, of course you can say why. I mean, I have 10 questions. You might come up with a whole bunch more, but I will tell you these ones probably are the ones that hit a chord, if you will. Certainly for me. Now, here's the thing with this. This is all stuff that you guys know already. Where are you starting from? So if I'm to ask someone, so I get you want to transform the organization, that tells me that you want to change it from what it is today to something else. So what is it today? Help me understand what today is for you and why it's not working, or why you think that going to something else is going to make it better. Right? You have to explore that. That is a conversation that needs to happen. But here's what I noticed about the starting point. Now, yes, of course, the implication here is if you have a starting point, you have an ending point. And yes, we all know it's a journey and all that kind of stuff. But there has to be stakes in the ground, right? I'll know this is working when certain things are happening, and I can look back and I can say my success looks like this. This is my acceptance criteria for that. These are conversations that need to happen. But here's what I notice about transformations. When you're really focused on the starting point, I had a bunch of executives in a room and I did what I call my integral journey line. And I got a piece of tape and I put it on the ground. I had all the executives stand and I said, here's your starting point. And I said, I want you to tell me what it is that you think that journey is going to look like. And they said, well, we need to change the roles and we're getting rid of our managers and we're going to do all this kind of stuff. And I said, but what does the end of your journey look like? And they said, well, actually, we haven't thought about that, really. And so instead of having them start at the beginning, I had them walk physically to the end of the line. And I said, tell me what it looks like to stand here. What does it feel like now that you've reached the end of the journey? Would you be able to articulate it? What does that vision look like? Now turn around and look down the line to your starting point. Now tell me what needs to happen. Because the perspective from the end of the journey, or certainly realizing the vision, looks a hell of a lot different from the starting point. Doesn't mean to say that you can't do both ends of the spectrum. Here's where I am right now, but here's what it's going to look like when I'm done, and I'm looking bi-directionally at that. That's really critically important. Does that make sense? Yeah? So, Mr. Executive, what's most important to you? Here's the thing about this. If you're working with an executive team, you've created a coalition, which I hope you do. If you were to ask each of them in a one-to-one interview, what's most important to you, by and large, 90% of them would be all different. Each person will have their own different idea of what's most important. Why is that? Well, first of all, typically those executives will have their own business unit that they're responsible for. And so, yes, of course, there's an agenda that they're responsible for. They're accountable for certain things. So there's kind of a micro and a macro view of what's most important. From the micro view, working with one-to-one executives, you can say, tell me what's most important for you organizationally for the position that you're in. They tell you all of that. That's great. That's important. We have to acknowledge and recognize what that looks like. As a transformation person, I have to look holistically at that and say, what does that do in terms of impacting all of the other agendas? The coalition part of it is, now that you know that they all have their own things going on and there are certain things that's most important to them, and that's perfectly fine. You need to acknowledge that. The coalition part is what's most important to all of you collectively for your organization. I will tell you, 80% of companies that are becoming agile are agile in name only. And the reason for that is because the coalition that should be at the executive level is not entirely bought in to the agenda collectively. So that has to be facilitated. You can't simply say, well, they'll figure it out. They're going to come back with a deck with, you know, the 5 top things or whatever. If you are a facilitator, that's another thing you need to be really skilled up on. Facilitate that conversation. Help to draw that out and frame it appropriately, because that is what's communicated to the people. That's what's going to help drive and support the culture. I kind of got shivers when I saw this one the first time, because I never used to say this as a powerful question. What are your biases? So it's very easy to have a pack mentality in transformation. You're going along with the crowd. Yeah, it sounds good. You ever get the kind of, yeah, you know, when your executive is supporting you. 5 minutes, oh my God. Question 4, holy crap. Biases means know your own judgments, your own opinions, the things that you wholeheartedly believe to be true for you, and then introspectively think about what those are in relation to whether they inhibit or enable what you're trying to do as part of the transformation. Because if you're not bought in, now I'm saying you, I mean, apply this, it could be your leaders or whoever, right? But you need to know what the biases of the people that are supporting this transformation, so that you can address that head on and not have to react to it later. Who's in your corner? I'm going to skip some of these. This is an important one. What are you willing to say yes to? I heard one of the executives in a company I was working with say, we're going to change the culture completely. We're going to bring in all these toys. We're going to have people, you know, we're going to paint the walls, funky colors, and all this kind of cultural stuff is going to be awesome, and everybody's going to be engaged, right? No, they're not. They had no plan to do that, and that's perfectly fine. But don't go around thinking, I'm going to do all these things without being smart enough to recognize, can the culture support it? Is the infrastructure conducive to doing that? Because then you're just selling stuff that's never actually going to happen and you lose credibility anyway, right? The elephant in the room, what are you ignoring? I'm all about noticing and letting the environment reveal itself. So you can ask as many questions as you want, you can coach till the cows come home, but your environment is telling you a lot. Take notice and recognize what those elephants are and take them head on. You need to start thinking about them now. Preempt what you think the elephants are going to be. Oh, there's an elephant, we'll deal with that later because it's not going to hit us for another 6 months. Not a good idea. What must you reveal about yourself? I said that at the beginning. If you want to be part of a transformation, you need to be having a personal transformation yourself, because the only way that you can help to transform an organization is to know what it feels like, because it's damn hard to transform an organization. It's an uphill battle all the time. Sure, there's great stuff and we reward ourselves, and yes, the needle is moving, but it ain't an easy journey for sure. Question 9. This is about the language that you use. I'm going to tell you, if you're into the fluffy language, I mean, no disrespect, I am a transformation person, but if you go into an executive or your organization is not conducive to you using certain transformational terms and language, then no one's going to hear what you have to say. You need to be careful of the types of language that you're using, but also things like greenwashing. Does anybody know what that term means, greenwashing? So if I had an executive that said, I'm all about the people. I'm all about the people. I love my people. I would do anything for my people. But then on the other side, I'm going off and I'm riffing all over the place, and I'm putting in policies, everybody needs to be in the office every day at 8 o'clock and they're not leaving until 7, right? That's saying one thing and doing another, right? So take notice of that. Are your executives saying one thing and doing another? Are you saying one thing and doing something else? Because that's not good either. You need to be role modeling the behavior just as much as anybody else. So, Mr. Executive, how do we know that this is working? Subjective. I will know it's working when X, Y, and Z happens. Okay? That you're going to have to explore. And this goes back to what I said. One of the questions was what's most important, because here's the thing. You need to constantly recalibrate that in a transformation, because it's kind of like the waterfall thing. You go in and they say, here's what's most important. And then, 3 months down the road, it's something else is most important. Well, that's the uncertainty of transformation, because what's most important today may change. Things happen. CEO left, or we had to pivot in certain directions. And so you need to constantly assume that there may be some changes that are happening on the what's most important, and you need to go back and you need to ask, and then kind of go through the process all over again. So what does this mean? How does this change the way we look at, what success looks like? Am I down to like 2 minutes or something now, right? So which question will you ask first? The bottom line is, those questions are important to me. I find them very powerful. I have noticed with a lot of transformational leaders that they are highly prescriptive in telling people what to do. I would invite you to, yes, mentor and advise, but if you are truly acting as a servant leader in transformation, you need to take a step back and really use those coaching skills, get into that coaching stance, and then explore what the possibilities are in terms of transformation. Because it's really only by doing that will you be able to truly understand what's going to make your company successful. Okay, I'm done. How's that? Thank you for your time. I have one question. Does anybody know where my accent is from? Really? My mother said, I was home in Ireland last week and she said, you're so American now. And I said, I still have my brogue, Mom. And she goes, no, it's gone. So thank you. See, I'm going to tell her that. Thanks, guys. You've been very good.